Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. A year ago, the world was stunned by the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny in an Arctic penal colony where he was serving a prison sentence. Navalny's death left an irreplaceable void in the fight against Vladimir Putin's rule. His vision for a democratic Russia and his fearless activism inspired millions. Today, as we mark the first anniversary of his passing, the Russian opposition faces a daunting challenge: disorganized, exiled, and struggling to unite. Joining us now is Vladimir Milov, a longtime ally of Navalny and a former advisor to him. Vladimir, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. So, how would you describe the state of the Russian opposition after Navalny's death?
Well, this was obviously a devastating blow. We probably never ever had a leader like that in the whole history of the Russian pro-democracy movement, not just in the recent period, but going back in historical retrospect as well. Navalny was a unique leader. He was a grassroots politician, never part of the ruling elites or nomenclatura. At the same time, he was able to create a truly massively penetrating nationwide movement, which was very active across the country, not just capitals, and which created its own media empire that was viewed by tens of millions of people. It's really hard to find another person like that with this kind of dedication and charisma, but Navalny's message was always, it's not me, it's you. He never actually took credit only for himself, for some breakthroughs that Russian opposition movement has been achieving. He always been saying, you gotta appreciate what yourselves are doing every day to counter the dictatorial regime. And he explicitly said, he was asked this question, what happens if Putin tries to kill you and if you die? He said, you should organize and go on and never give up, because this is exactly the goal that Putin tried to achieve with poisoning, imprisoning, and subsequently killing Navalny.
Understand, yes, there was, as you just said, an attempt to poison Navalny before he was sent to the penal colony. Now, clearly, he had a very powerful message which resonated with, as you say, millions of people around Russia. But how did he manage to do this under Putin's very tight controls over media messaging?
Well, first, I think it goes back to Navalny's personal talent. He was a unique person that was really very open to people. I used to enjoy moments when we walked together around the streets of not only Moscow, but some other cities. He was always stopped by people who wanted not just to make a selfie, but to talk to him. And he always told his allies and friends to stay and wait until he talks to ordinary Russians. He was very much open to the audience. He clearly received a lot of important feedback, and he appreciated people directly reaching out to him. His frankness, his open-mindedness, I think this is what appealed to people. Also, what is important, Navalny captured this momentum sometime, I don't know, 15 years ago or earlier. He realized the phenomenon of social media, which can be used for the benefit of spreading truth against Putin's propaganda disinformation machine. He was the champion of social media in Russia, clearly in the political sphere. So that combination of unique factors was an eye-opener for millions and millions of people in Russia who never paid attention to politics before. I think this explains his phenomenon. Remarkably, the movement and the broadcasting and the communication with ordinary Russians basically lives on to this day. As a matter of fact, we now have bigger audience inside the country than we had when Navalny was still alive, operating in Russia and broadcasting.
Now, that's fascinating to hear. It begs two questions. The first is, of course, Russia is a huge country, and political opinions and, in fact, the availability of information varies. It's very different in Moscow or St. Petersburg compared to the Far East, for example. Was Navalny able to get his message across the country, or were there pockets of particular support?
Navalny was, again, he was a unique figure because he instigated a protest movement that I think one of the biggest rallies that was held under his call, was it 2019 or 2018, I just don't remember exactly, but it was over 200 cities of Russia. We had a live broadcast, it's all documented, over 200 cities across the country, from Kaliningrad to Vladivostok, which went out protesting, with really hundreds of thousands of people attending, despite the dangers, the risks of arrest, and so would have been many, many millions if this was an open rally sanctioned by the authorities. So that was really something unique in Russian history, because it started in the regions, basically, not in the capitals. Navalny held record-breaking numbers of rally attendance in many provincial cities like Murmansk, Orenburg, and the others. They never had these large political rallies in the whole history of these cities. So that was one of the big differences that he made. He was not a capital phenomenon. He was a nationwide phenomenon, really appreciated by people who wanted normalcy, rule of law, and democracy well across the country.
So a much bigger threat, I should imagine, to Putin's rule. Now, you mentioned that the number of people that follow his message today is even greater than when he was alive. Who is leading that group? Where is the momentum coming from?
Well, I think it's important that European Union has an official motto, which is saying united in diversity. I think it's very important that there exist different political groups, civil society groups in the Russian anti-Putin opposition circles, who basically appeal to different social and regional groups across the country. I think this diversity is something remarkably different from what Putin offers, because Putin is always one opinion, one leader, one folk, and all this stuff that unfortunately we know all too well. Opposition offers choice, diversity of views, real lively debate. So I think Navalny also said this when he was still alive. He was not really happy with the status of like one single general secretary of the opposition, if you will. He said, listen, we have many talented folks who are focusing on different important issues of the civil society, and this is how it should be. So I think that the importance of the movement that he created it's not just dependent on one man alone, and consists of many diverse and talented people and movements that are focusing on different things.
Understood, Mr. Milov. Now, there is perhaps a grey cloud over his death. We've just heard that the US security services believe that Putin did not order it. I realise that is not the only opinion out there. What is your opinion?
I used to work in the Russian government for 6 years. It is absolutely impossible, like zero, not like 99 point something, but it's like zero chance that such an important undertaking as poisoning and subsequent murder of Navalny was happening without a direct order, direct clearance from Vladimir Putin. This is impossible. This is not how a system works. And I know these reports and assessment by Western intelligence and politicians and experts, but these are largely people who never worked inside the system, and they basically have no idea how difficult it is to move just a small inch of a decision on much lighter matters without Putin's personal consent, not to mention this thing, killing the leader of the opposition. Totally impossible that it could have happened without Putin's personal authorization.
Understood. Now, I'd like to talk about Navalny's family and his wife, Yulia, who's still carrying on the fight. She's, I understand, quite active in the opposition. What is her condition? What is the condition of his family?
Well, Yulia Navalny, Alexei's spouse, she obviously never intended to become a politician. That was not her voluntary choice, but she had to do it because there was a major demand from the people for her to step in and continue Navalny's political activities and so on. We are now, I'm frequently in touch with her and Navalny's team. We are now in a very difficult conditions because we separated from our country and people who are inside Russia. We are in forced exile. It's not easy to operate politically from forced exile, and many Polish politicians, also currently in government, I'm sure, know and have passed through this experience. But we're still trying to communicate, and it works because, again, millions and millions of people in Russia who do not give up hoping for a better, democratic, peaceful country one day, they continue to watch us. Navalny's messages resonate very significantly with the Russian people. She's one of the most popular figures in the democratic opposition alternative to Putinism and so on. So we'll continue to carry this message through, and we continue to spread the word that the democratic Russia which is peaceful, which is respecting its neighbors and their sovereignty, which respects the rule of law, and which gives people a say, contrary to the Putin system. This opposition exists, and it is still continuing to matter, to influence people in Russia and give them the hope for the future.
Understood. Now, very, very quickly, Mr. Milov, if you would. Clearly, the kind of Russia that you describe, in line with Navalny's vision of it, is also in line with many democratic countries' visions. Are you receiving support, maybe financial or other, from other countries in your struggle?
Different opposition groups do receive support from various democratic governments. That is important, but that's not the only thing, because we also have a lot of people in the Russian society who want to help us, donate us, and we try to rely on Russian support as the core source of our activity.
Understood. And clearly it is maintaining its effectiveness. As you say, the numbers are going up and the feeling still exists nationwide, which is a very impressive feat. Mr. Vladimir Milov, thank you very much indeed for sharing your time with our audience today. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you.